Kathy Manning won this seat with 62% of the vote last time around. The district has changed somewhat, but it still favors the Democrats. The numbers favor Manning. She's raised 4 times as much money as her opponent, according to the last report filed with the Federal Elections Commission. And in the last presidential race, voters in this district chose Biden over Trump by 12 points. North Carolina's 6th congressional district is considered a safe seat for Democrats. Does that become an issue for you, trying to deal in a race that the experts say is not competitive?
As we say, from your lips to God's ears, Bill. I am not taking anything for granted.
What is it that your opponent has said or done that concerns you the most?
Well, I haven't ever met him. I haven't seen him anywhere on the campaign trail.
Student loans, very, divisive for some. Where did you stand? I know where you stand, but make your argument as to why you believe what you believe about student loans.
The plan that the president has put into place will help a very significant number of middle and lower income people who have struggled with student loans. Many of those are people who didn't actually have the opportunity to graduate from college, but still bear the loans.
Would you welcome the president to come campaign on your behalf in the 6th district?
I am always happy to have the president come to our district.
The latest poll numbers find only 43% of North Carolina respondents approve of the job President Biden's doing. 55% disapprove. Inflation has hurt the president's popularity. Does the president share some of the blame for the inflation problem in this country?
There are so many causes to the inflation that we're experiencing, and the inflation is global. Our inflation in the U.S. is similar to what's being experienced across Europe and across the world.
So again, does the president share some of the blame?
I think the president has done everything he can to try to deal with a very difficult situation. And I think Congress has responded in a very responsible way. One
of the many issues dividing Manning and her opponent, Kristen Castelli, is qualified immunity for police officers, which shields them from being sued. You supported that bill. That was part of it, eliminating that qualified immunity for police officers. Why it is that you're not supporting that, or that you don't think that it is necessary to support that?
I think the whole world was appalled when we saw what happened to George Floyd. And I think people who behave in such an egregious way need to be held accountable. But as I said, the most important thing is to get in front of these issues by making sure that our police have the training they need, the health care they need, and that we support our police with the appropriate funding.
Manning says Democrats in Washington have won important fights over health care.
We've worked really hard to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. We were successful in the Inflation Reduction Act in putting a cap on the cost of prescription drugs for seniors and also allowing the government to negotiate with Big Pharma for the cost of prescription drugs. We've governed, we've gotten things done for the American people. And I don't see that on the other side of the aisle.
Is there concern in your mind that we still have a threat from some who refuse to accept the outcome of our elections?
I am deeply concerned about those who continue to dispute the legitimacy of the 2020 election. We see it in outrageous statements being made on the campaign trail.
Several Republican candidates, including North Carolina's Ted Budd, recently declined comment when asked if they will accept the results of midterm elections. Nearly 150 Republicans voted to overturn the 2020 presidential election after the January 6th assault on the Capitol.
I was caught in the House gallery. I was in the last group taken out to safety while people had literally hand-to-hand combat, beating up police officers, beating up those brave Capitol Police who were there and thankfully got us out of there. I asked Manning's opponent, Kristen Castelli, whether or not he'll accept the results of this election, win or lose. He has not responded to our question. Bill O'Neill, WXII 12 News.